All right, Jackie, you're on with Danny.
Hey, Danny. I was just wondering kind of what was the process. This has been a trade that's been rumored to be happening for a while now. I guess just why now? What was kind of the process leading into today?
Hey Jackie. Well, why now? I mean, there's never you don't really decide when a trade really happens until you both agree. There's time that we've had some discussions on Trevor in the past. There's times where it wasn't feasible on our end, and some of the times, or most of the time, it's probably Anaheim not willing to let go of him. So. Um, we just got to a point where the timing was right for both teams, and it made sense this morning to do it.
Jackie, any follow-up question?
Yeah, I just have one follow-up. There's obviously been a lot of talk about, he's a center or a wing. How do you project him with the Flyers?
Well, that'll be more a question for Rick Tocchet. He's going to decide where he fits best and what we have. So, we hope he can, help in the center position because that's obviously an area that we could improve. But at the same time, if Rick decides that he's better suited on the wing and there's other guys that play better in the middle, he's going to decide. But we certainly hope that he can help fill the void in the middle.
Adam Kimmelman, you're on with Danny.
Hey, Danny. Just curious, Zegras had some injury issues the last couple of years. What was the medical report that you guys got on him ahead of making the move today?
Everything was cleared. Nothing to worry about. Nothing that could be an issue moving forward with him. Yeah, like I said, there's no issue on that part.
Adam, any follow-up?
Yeah, just one. He's got a couple of friends here, Jamie Drysdale for sure, and Cam York, assuming he's back. How much did you kind of touch base with those guys to get their vibe on what Trevor could bring and just wondering if they had any input, either way on what you guys did today?
Well, we're very close to our players. We talk to them constantly. We always try to get news on some of the players they know around the league, and we've talked about them, along just a normal conversation that we've had, in the last year. That's any of us that are downstairs. Sometimes it's Jonesy. Sometimes it's the coaches. We'll just check in with different guys around the league, get their thoughts, get how they feel about certain guys. It's always helpful to get input from the players because they play against each other. They know, going in the corner, battling against someone who's tough, who has a second, third, fourth effort, who's annoying to play against. So we're constantly asking our players about other players on the league. It's sometimes, there's questions that are a little bit more pointed. They don't even realize really. We're just asking about some of the players they knew. We were well aware that Jamie and Cam York played with him as well, and we're close. But we never came out directly and asked them, if their friend was available or anything like that.
Thanks. Kevin Kurz, you're on with Danny.
Hey, Danny. Pat Verbeek was saying that Trevor had a desire to play center again. I assume you've talked to Trevor by now. Do you get the sense that he wants to play center? He wants to try it out, and because obviously you look at his career, most of his production in the early part of his career came when he was a center.
Yeah, I did talk to Trevor. We didn't dive into his playing time, his ice time, or where he's going to play or anything like that yet. Look, it's not a secret. We're thin in the middle, and hopefully he can, help us out. But at the end of the day, Talk is going to have a say, and he's going to be the one making that decision on Trevor and his position.
Charlie O'Connor, you're on with Danny.
Hey Danny, it's pretty clear over the last couple of years that Trevor's production has dipped. He dealt with some injuries as well, but from your perspective, what explains that drop off from where he was a few seasons back, and why wasn't it something that you were concerned about enough not to take the plunge here?
Well, that's why he was available. in the first place. Top six talent are very, very rarely available around the NHL. We felt that was a risk worth taking for us. We've seen him in the past. He had those really good seasons at 20 and 21 years old. Now I'm not sure. Yes, injuries were a factor the last couple of years. Other than that, it's tough for us to tell on the outside. We're not in the room. We're not with the coaching staff, with the other players. Sometimes it could be chemistry as well. So I'm not too sure. We feel good about it because of what he's shown in the past, and we hope he can, find that magic again and take it to another level.
Jordan Hall, you're on with Danny.
Hi, Danny. Just how important was it, Danny, to not lose any of your first round picks this summer in the trade? And do you like Trevor's contract as well? I know he's in a contract year coming up, and there's no real super long-term commitment yet.
Yeah, obviously the first round picks for us were a no-go from the start. We spent a lot of time and a lot of frustration acquiring those first round picks. So we're trying to be extra careful with that. And as far as Trevor, time will tell where he can take his game.
Kevin, you're back with Danny.
Yeah, Danny, obviously you surrendered a good player in Ryan Poehling, who was, looked like he had developed into a pretty good depth guy. When you look at the fourth line center position, is that something you expect to be filled internally by, the Carson Dorwarts and Gaucher and some of these other, or even Jet Luchenko that are in the organization?
Yeah, there's possibilities internally, but we're also going to look on the outside. We'll see on free agency day or on the trade front if there's anything that makes sense. Yes, losing Ryan wasn't easy. He's a good bottom six player that was very serviceable for us the last couple of years. Really well liked in the room too. So we're aware of that, but the chance to acquire a top six player made the difference in this case, unfortunately. And you've got to give something up to get those guys. So internally, you mentioned Jet Luchenko, you mentioned Dorwart. There's Abels that played a few games last year for us. There's also Gaucher that we signed to an NHL deal that played a few games last year that keeps getting better and better. So there's option internally as well, but we're going to keep looking.
Charlie, you're back with Danny.
Hey, Danny. So it's obviously one of the big storylines going into this offseason was the weakness of you guys down the middle, both in the short term and the long term. After this trade, do you still see it as a weakness that needs to be addressed? Is this, more or less going to be your answer to the center position? And I'm talking both about, the upcoming draft, obviously, but also the rest of the offseason.
Well, what I can tell you is that we're always looking. We finished fourth worst last year in the NHL, so we constantly need to keep improving. We're still far away. This hopefully is just one piece of the puzzle. We'd like to keep getting better if there's a chance to keep improving while fitting into the plan of growing with our young guys and giving them the chance to grow together. We're going to seriously consider it. We're never stopping there if there's a chance to improve the team.
All right, thank you guys. Now we're going to open it up to some French questions. Gabriel, you're on with Danny.
Bonjour Daniel, tu m'entends bien?
Oui, salut Gabriel.
Daniel, parle-moi un peu de l'acquisition de Trevor Zegras. Tu as mentionné là, en anglais que pour vous, c'est important d'aller chercher un attaquant top 6. À quel point Trevor vient combler là, un besoin et peut-être vos besoins pour l'entre-saison chez les Flyers?
On espère que Trevor Zegras va venir nous aider dans notre top 6. C'était un coin où on voulait s'améliorer. Malheureusement, il faut lui payer un certain prix. Dans le cas de Ryan Poehling, il va nous manquer, c'est sûr. Mais la chance d'acquérir un joueur là, qui joue dans le top 6, De notre côté, on pensait que ça en valait la peine de prendre ce risque-là à ce moment de sa carrière. Il est quand même encore assez jeune, à 24 ans. Il peut grandir avec nos jeunes joueurs. Puis on espère qu'il va retrouver là, la magie qu'il avait à ses 20-21 ans. Il a eu à dealer avec beaucoup de blessures et de toutes sortes d'affaires dans sa vie là, les 2 dernières années. Fait qu'on espère là, que les choses vont se replacer pour lui puis qu'il va devenir encore une fois un attaquant de premier plan.
We're taking French questions if anyone else has any. All right, well, we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Danny, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.